a graduate of the School of Oriental and African Studies of the University of London, and in 2008 won the Jomoro seat, beating the Honorable Lee Okran to that seat. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to welcome the former chairperson of the Convention People's Party, Madam Samia Christina Nkrumah.
Thank you very much. It's good Honorable Lee got up just at the right moment. This is better. Thank you. But good afternoon, everyone. My brothers on the panel, our father, the big farmer, Professor Afarijan, and all of you. And I want to thank the organizers for choosing a woman to be included in this panel, and also someone who doesn't represent the voice of one of the two main parties we have in Ghana today, the NPP and NDC. So thank you for having me. Frederick Ebert Foundation and the Institute, what is it? The Institute of Law and Public Affairs, TV3, Media General, and all of you for being here. Now, I want to begin by commenting on something Professor Afarijan said about democratic governance being much more than elections or electoral democracy. Indeed, elections are just one aspect of our democracy. We all know that we are practicing democracy under particular circumstances. The average voter's main concern is how to survive, is on survival mode. We are thinking of how to pay our children's school fees, how to find adequate shelter, how to find a job, if you are young especially, how to pay your rent, and so forth. So we don't have that middle class, a critical mass of middle class who know their rights, who will fight for their rights, and who keep elected officials properly accountable. Unfortunately, we do not have that. And I think that has a bearing on the climate of the elections. And it might be one of the reasons why the monetization of politics is working so well. People are struggling by and large. Now, we are all guided in our elections and managing elections, the EC itself, by what? By our constitution. It's almost, you could say, it's not just the highest legal authority, it is our philosophy. It guides us in everything we do. And with all due respect, the 1992 Constitution is not helping democratic governance. I want us to ponder over that Constitution very well. I can give a few examples. One of them is the indemnity clause. For the life of me, I will never understand why, in a democracy, we have to include an indemnity clause in our constitution and uphold military decrees, uphold military decrees. I want you to look at that. Promise me you will look at that indemnity clause today when we finish this program. Now, it means one thing, that we are all in Ghana as citizens, not equal before the law. Now, I'm mentioning this because whatever is in your constitution has a bearing on your psyche, on how you think, on our mindsets, because this is really our final point of reference. It is sacred. But in our case, I believe it is a bit flawed. And we need to have the courage one day to say we need to change or amend some clauses in that constitution. Even the powers conferred on the President of the Republic are sometimes too excessive, including the appointing of some very important positions, including appointing the Electoral Commission. This is definitely, let's face it, it's one of the source of the perceptions of the EC being for this political party or that. We need to look at those clauses. Even the appointment of DCEs, I mean local leaders, I would call them, you know, DCEs, municipal or metropolitan chief executives, even appointing 30% of our local assembly or district assembly members. All that really cannot be in a democracy. Can you imagine if the mayor of London was appointed, or of Paris? I mean, even in countries, neighboring countries like Senegal and others, mayors are elected, not appointed. All this will have a bearing on the climate of elections and electioneering, I believe. And most importantly, I think it will give the average citizen that courage, you know, that you need to hold people in positions accountable. You cannot have freedom of speech without freedom of information. You need to do whatever it takes for the average citizen to have the courage to be able to speak out and speak truth to power when the need arises. Now, I'm happy we all spoke about so far, and I'm sure Honorable Ampofo might too speak about that, the voters' register. Big problem, I think, from experience as a candidate in a border, I would say, or a constituency that borders with another country. But also, generally speaking, we would be much better off if we had what I would call a national citizens register. And in many countries, you have that. You are born, all your details are there. It's very easy to identify a citizen, or even if you relocate or if you come new to a country. But everything is there at the local, your local district assembly. All your details are there. There's no confusion about who is a citizen and who is not. We don't have to wait till a few months before elections or the same year, the year of elections, before we have to open up for registration for thousands of new voters and just be confused with the whole process, which if you lived in a border town constituency, it is marked by buses and buses of people coming from another country to come and register, and the same people who would need to be bused to come and vote. Imagine if you had a school, you know your students, they are all in the register. They are all in the register. If someone new comes, they are added. You wouldn't need to be so immersed in millions of preparations just before your elections or your exam every time. We need to have control and be able to identify who are our citizens, those at home and those abroad. So I'm dreaming of the day when Ghana will no longer have a voters register. We will have our citizens register, and we can have our national ID. That is all well and good. I'm not going to go into all the arguments surrounding it now, the costs, this PPP or not PPP, but let's say it's in the right direction. We need our IDs for other services. But for heaven's sake, let us plan to have our citizens register. Now, I wanted to give a little example about my experience in the constituency of Jomoro. And I just want to give some figures which you can check. I'm rounding up. Now, in 2008, when I became a member of parliament, the valid votes, the total valid votes cast, the number was between 39,000 to 40,000. In 2012, the number increased to 52,000, 12,000. Now, between 2012 and 2016, there was hardly any increase. So between 2004 and 2008, there was hardly an increase. Between 2008 and 12, there was 12,000 increase. Between 2012 and 16, there was hardly any increase. Now, all this has to do with the voters' register. So I think we really need to do something about it. The EC, the citizens, politicians, everybody, sooner or later it will catch up with us. It's totally unnecessary to be wrangling over votes in 2018, especially if we think that one way of gaining power is simply to add on to the number of voters. Now, I think that we should consider very seriously how we are going to have what some might call economic democracy. Because I think one thing that is going to make it easier for us to have less stressful elections. We are peaceful in Ghana, thank God. But I mean less stressful elections. One thing that is going to enable us to have, I believe, outcomes that we will all be happy with. Because I see the EC always, I like to see the EC, and I hope it will be one day become a unifier of sorts, you know, somehow building consensus amongst different views and political parties, but also trying to accommodate everyone's views. And that will be in line with our traditional African culture. We are not strangers to democracy, by the way, not in our old African civilization. We just practiced it differently, perhaps. But consensus building was a very important thing. So I'm hoping that one day the EC will be that unifier, that great institution that we look up to and believe in. It's almost a sacred duty, like a church, like a mosque, like a shrine. One day I hope we'll have we'll have our EC, which we will look up to. And we have to work towards having that one day. But what I started talking about is the importance we must attach to making sure that this whole democracy thing delivers to the people, and delivers not just economic gains, better services, but delivers to the people the right to participate, the feeling and the sense that citizens really have a voice that is heard, that they can affect decision making of sorts, especially at the local level. citizens need to feel, the citizens of Ghana and Africa need to feel that they matter more than this. And I'm not talking about just powerful groups or people, but everybody. Everybody needs to feel that they matter. And I think we will get there. We will get there as our politicians or people in public leaders, I would call them, become more transparent. So the EC has to become very transparent. There's nothing like we hear this contract was signed and we didn't even know by who, for what. This is a very important institution. Even if other institutions are not, they don't disclose everything they do, the EC should be a leader in transparency and accountability, because you affect so many lives. The outcome of elections affects so many lives, and ultimately they must deliver. Now, thank God we are Africans. Thank God we have an African solution that might improve the lives or the living standard of our people. I want us, as we are deliberating on all these matters, our democratic governance, elections, I want us just to consider how much easier it will be if we linked up with other countries to improve all our institutions, to improve all our affairs. Yes, I am. To improve all our institutions. I want us to consider how much easier it will be if African states united on all aspects of our development: political unity, economic integration, social integration, cultural integration. Just imagine if we really started taking seriously, and I'm talking to ordinary citizens here, ordinary people, students, teachers. Let us seriously consider why Africa must unite, because I believe we will have better democratic governance as we create that critical mass of middle class that is more affluent, not so stressed with everyday living, that will be able to fight for the rights of every citizen. Thank you very much.
And to her, I should say, shukran, ya